Hello there, this is Danny Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide, and today I've decided to take on the subject of the commenters suggesting whether that CIG should re-engineer Star Citizen to be based on crypto, or suggesting that it is inevitable that it will happen. I've spent a fair amount of time researching crypto for somebody who doesn't actually own any. First, as part of my analysis of whether the market for graphic cards will improve this year, and now for this video. So the first thing is a quick summary of how crypto works in relation to this subject. Then what would be the problems of altering Star Citizen to use it, and then finally look at the most Star Citizen-like, fully crypto-linked game, Star Atlas. So I'm not just discussing these things in the abstract. So first, as one humorous post on a crypto forum said, what is a token, and why would anybody want to fund it in the first place? A token is an entry in a blockchain file. It may be for a full unit, or it may be for a partial unit. By default, one token in a blockchain is one coin in a cryptocurrency, one Ethereum in the Ethereum blockchain, one Bitcoin in the Bitcoin blockchain, and so forth. But some of the newer blockchains allow other projects to use the tokens to represent other things. For example, a token might represent membership in an organization, or share in the profits of the project, or even a currency other than the currency for which the blockchain is named. Why would they piggyback on somebody else's blockchain rather than just starting their own? Because a new blockchain with few participants is easy for a group of conspirators to take over, known as a 51% attack. Thus, people are justifiably suspicious of getting involved with one. Now, every token in a blockchain has a unique number, just like every piece of currency has a serial number. But how often do you look at or care about the serial number on a dollar bill? Almost never, because you don't care which dollar bill you have. They're all the same to you. In the same way, you don't care which Bitcoin you own, which Ethereum, or which membership in a club, or which stock certificate, and so forth. The property of each item being regarded as the same as any other one is called fungibility. But what if the token was instead being used to represent ownership of one very specific thing? Let's say one specific item of, for lack of a better term, we'll call art. In this case, it matters quite a bit which token you hold, for reasons perhaps clear only to those really into them. So these tokens are not fungible. They are non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. Note that there is no difference in the actual token in the blockchain. The difference is whether they are used in a way they are regarding as fungible or not. So let's look at the strengths of the blockchain technology. Because there's a tendency in technology that when some new concept attains the status of being the sexy new thing, and certainly blockchain and crypto have that status, that they become the buzzword tool that must be used on everything, whether actually useful to it or not. What blockchain is amazingly amazing at is decentralized computing. Many thousands of unrelated computers in all sorts of locations can all be working on the same ledger of information and be certain that they are all working on the exact same data and cross-check and correct any discrepancies without any sort of central controller or organization. That's pretty cool, if that's what you need. But if you are a centralized authority, say CIG, and you want one central data authority under your supervision, then blockchain loses all of its appeal and just becomes an inefficient way of storing data. So let's be clear. As long as you don't need decentralized authority, you don't need blockchain. Amazon works fine without it. eBay works fine without it. Electronic payment services work fine without it. If CIG wanted to create a real-time 24/7 exchange for UEC for real-world currency, they could have done so with the technology available to them in 2013. If CIG wanted to create an official 24/7 electronic marketplace for allowing players to buy and sell their in-game assets, they could have done that with the technology available in 2013. Let me make that perfectly clear. There is no official real-time marketplace for UEC, not because UEC isn't a cryptocurrency, but because CIG doesn't want one. There is no official real-time marketplace for players to buy and sell game assets from each other, not because these things aren't NFTs, but because CIG doesn't want one. There is no way to get passive real-world income from your assets, not because it would be impossible, but because CIG doesn't want one. Even the gray market CIG tries to limit as much as they can, even though they can't legally stop it. So why doesn't CIG want it? It's not like they don't want yet another way to make money. Well, it is that on several levels they can stave off the tail wagging the dog. This is my dog Scout. This is his tail. Scout wags his tail because Scout is more important than the tail. If Scout's tail were more important than Scout, then the tail would wag the dog. Now think of Scout as game development and his tail as the game funding. There have been times, particularly during big ship sales, where it sometimes feels like the tail is wagging the dog for Star Citizen, but consider how much more severe it would be if the currency floated with real-world dollars on official markets, and where ships traded with real-world dollars in a constant marketplace. Could, in such a situation, CIG ever be able to do a UEC wipe with the economy if it got out of control? No, they couldn't. Even an adjustment to prices or returns, such as changing the payment of a Luminalia gift, wouldn't just get grumbling, but howls of outrage and accusations of insider trading and currency manipulation. CIG would pretty much have to get every economic balance perfect on the first guess to avoid constant outrage. And the same goes for items. Could you imagine how the current complaining about the Ares Ion would be amplified if there was an official real-time real currency trading board for the Ares Ion that was seeing its price crater while, for example, the Gladius skyrockets? There would just be so much pressure to get every single game economy and game balance decision perfect the first time, which is both impossible and way too much pressure to have to work under. But the tail wagging the dog applies to the players too. CIG wants Star Citizen to be a way that you can immerse yourself in a living, breathing universe distant from your current life. You can't do that if you're also thinking about how many hours to finish having your rent payment or how many years to pay off your student debt. Or maybe you think you could do both at the same time, but you'd have to be so good at mentally compartmentalizing that it would be nearly pathological. And even presuming that if you could compartmentalize that well, how would it change your interaction with other players if they were really just there to make their rent payment? And let's not kid ourselves. This whole play-to-earn pitch isn't new. Gold farming has been around since Ultima Online and Lineage. Oh, but oh no, I hear the crypto bros scream, this isn't gold farming. Gold farming was desperate people in low-wage countries maniacally grinding for countless hours in sweatshop conditions to barely subsist. No, this is crypto gaming. This is cool, sexy dudes in developed countries who are having a great time helping to buy their Lamborghini. Gold farming? Oh, no. But let's not kid ourselves. If one person really can earn a decent amount of money soon, they will figure out how to get 10 desperate people to get it for them 10 times as fast. So that's both the basics of what blockchain is and why CIG and quite possibly you don't want it as much as other folks are likely saying that you do. So next I thought I would discuss Star Atlas, as it is as close as possible to a real-world example of what Star Citizen would look like as a crypto-based game. After all, its feature set is pretty much cribbed from Star Citizen, which isn't bad. After all, imitation is the sincerest flattery. But those of us who have been following Star Citizen since the early days do understand the huge task that lies ahead for Star Atlas. And I'm not trying to say get into Star Atlas or avoid it. I'm just looking critically at what may happen, particularly from the standpoint of the funding tail wagging the gaming dog. And in addition, when folks start advocating that Star Citizen be converted to crypto, they will undoubtedly be using Star Atlas as the example, so it's worthwhile to understand Star Atlas. Star Atlas is built on the Solana blockchain. The Solana blockchain is optimized for faster transaction times and lower transaction costs. So among blockchains, it is well suited to microtransactions that can happen in games. They have piggybacked two coins on top of Solana. The first is Atlas, which is comparable to UEC. That is what you will buy ships, flare, and supplies with. The second coin is the Star Atlas DAO, or Distributed Autonomous Organization. It goes by the title of Polis and essentially gives the owner one vote on important matters in the direction of the game.
I didn't know we had a king. I thought we were an autonomous collective.
It is not clear if that is meant just for game world decisions or also management of the Star Atlas project itself. There is an extensive collection of ship NFTs, starting with some space bikes at an issuance price of $20 each, all the way up to the Fimbro EOCS Tree Arrow, of which the strictly limited 107 units have an original issuance price of $99,500. The USDC is a crypto stablecoin tightly tied to $1. which is a good place to compare with Star Citizen. First of all, Star Citizen ships are promised to be eventually purchasable in-game with in-game currency. With Star Atlas, in-game currency is also real-world currency, so essentially you will always be purchasing them with, in effect, a dollar equivalent. Next, with a Star Citizen cap ship, there will eventually be as many as can be purchased with in-game currency without any hard limit. With Star Atlas, if they ever add a 108th tree arrow, expect the owners of the 107 to come with pitchforks. You are only going to get to own a tree arrow by convincing one of the owners of those 107 to sell you it real world. A popular outside source, the Star Atlas Club, puts the open market price of the tree arrow at just under $175,000, and the average of all of them having been bought for a little over $105,000. But Star Atlas must be very careful about actually spending those $99,500. And that is why the funding numbers for Star Atlas does not mean the same thing as the funding numbers for Star Citizen. Because Star Atlas, and most of the NFT industry, has a method for what's called staking the asset. And that means making the tree arrow more like a corporate bond and less like a starship. So that $99,500 isn't justified by the fun you will have in the game, but by the annual percentage rate on the investment. They frame it in space game terms, but here is how it works using the tree arrow as an example. Every day you have to keep your ship fed and supplied with an additional roughly 500 Atlas, which at current exchange rates is about $44. Then you deploy the tree arrow on what are presumed to be money-making missions. But you aren't actually going anywhere besides your web browser. It is essentially just clicking a button. Once you do, though, your tree arrow is locked and under Star Atlas's control until you change it back. But while deployed, you get just under 4,000 Atlas per day, which at current exchange rates is a bit over $350. Subtract the expenses and your net is just over $300 a day, for an annual percentage rate a hair under 64%, which is actually the lowest APR of all the ships. Those lowly $20 space bikes are actually pulling in over 100% APR. But what this means is that Star Atlas has to do something with that $99,500 that they got from the buyer of the tree arrow that's going to get them over $300 a day. Because if they just created that much extra Atlas out of thin air, it would trigger hyperinflation of the Atlas and collapse the entire enterprise. So what are they doing with it? Well, ultimately, anything they want, because even if it is specified in the white paper for the project, a white paper is not a legally binding contract like a prospectus. There is no regulatory authority and no requirement for audited financial reports. But since everything is ultimately based on Solana, I suspect what they are doing is adding it to a Solana stake pool. No, not that. I'll explain. You see, Solana is a proof-of-stake coin. That means there isn't some massive, extensive computing contest to see who gets to do the official recalculation of the blockchain and be awarded new ones. Instead, everybody pushes their staked coins into the center of the table, where they are locked from any other use. There is no card game, but every time the blockchain needs to be recalculated, the croupier pulls one chip at random from the big pile. If that chip is yours, you get to be the official recalculator, get the transaction fee, also known as gas tax, and are awarded a bit of the controlled stream of new Solana that is created. As you can guess, the more chips you have on the table, the greater the chance that one of yours will be picked and the more money you make. You don't lose a chip that was picked from the pile. As long as you don't screw up the recalculation of the blockchain, the chip is returned. Now, you may have noted that there's a lot of moving parts to this. There's the value of Solana, the value of Atlas, whether Star Atlas can maintain the desirability of the project in light of new shiny objects in the NFT trading sphere. That's why it has returns usually associated with high-risk investments. Because it is. Now, let's return to those people with the nearly six-figure investment in a tree arrow. Are they 6 figures deep here for the dream of years from now being able to pilot a 4/5 of a kilometer-long city ship bomber in space, or are they here for an attractive annual percentage rate and the opportunity for substantial capital appreciation and increasing value of the underlying synthetic currency? Because if they're here as a crypto speculator and NFT collector and staker, then Star Atlas is feature complete. They have coins traded on major exchanges, a sufficient library of tradable NFTs, and a staking method with attractive levels of passive income. The tail, in my prior analogy, is complete. The dog, on the other hand, is non-existent. They have a cinematic teaser with no particular relation to the game features, and what is billed as a gameplay video, which was simply an Unreal Engine 5 cutscene featuring a ship entering a hangar. The description of this as a gameplay video was justified by saying that there would be an upcoming showroom module where you will be able to see your ship in a 3D environment. Now, if you're a Star Citizen follower, you would say, hey, that showroom module sounds a lot like a scaled-back version of the Star Citizen hangar module from 2013, and you're right. It shows what a long and expensive road is still ahead to ever make Star Atlas a space sim. And if you're here as a crypto speculator and NFT buyer, you're likely to look at that game development as a many years, multi-hundred of million dollars sinkhole that will remove money from the table, thus making it harder to maintain yields without inflation, undermine the market value of the asset, and introduce even wider swings of volatility of the value of the currency as the game economy is tuned and balanced. And saying that, could the obvious reaction not be, kill it now? The Bored Ape Yacht Club does not need yacht races or boats at all, so why do we need to be endangering our staked NFT returns by playing Buck Rogers in the 30th century with them 5 years from now? Now, the game enthusiasts with the $20 space bikes might say, hey, the white paper says the project is a space game, so suck it. But it seems to me that the only firm thing that the project is, or should be, is whatever 51% of the polis holders says it is. Management could call for a vote, the polis holders could say, kill it, and the management is insulated from saying that the space game was a big scam by saying, hey, there was a vote.
But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting.
Yes, I see.
Now, I'm not saying to invest or not invest in Star Atlas. I'm not saying that this is what will happen. I'm saying that it could, and it is an example of how far things can change when the tail gets to wag the dog. Now, normally at this point, for my usual audience of Star Citizen followers, I will talk about the Grow the Channel ship giveaway, but since this video might well get traction far outside my usual audience of Star Citizen followers, I will just let you guys know that the secret word is my dog's name. This is Daniel Raymond for Ray's Guide.